Hello, hello. My name is Carly Civello and I am a talking person. And here we are back with the first full episode since starting season 2 of the podcast. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty well. And I am excited because today is the episode where I let the people choose what the topic will be, and the people have spoken. Drumroll, please. Da-da-da-da-da. The topic is AI. So today I will be talking about artificial intelligence, generative AI, and some of the terrible things about it. It's a nuanced topic. Every topic is nuanced. There is always gray. Nothing's ever just black and white. However, if you have been following me for some time, you will know my thoughts about AI. And I think so first of all, a lot of you submitted questions. I'm going to be going over those. However, I myself am not an expert, so I will be consulting Google, not the AI generated result. Obviously. It's out to save its own skin, people. But I will be, during the episode, looking over here at my monitor. If you are watching the video version of this, you will see me looking over here to search some things. You will also see me looking at my phone, my cellular device, because some of you submitted questions on Threads. Some of you sent me them on Instagram. I put a few polls up and a few submission calls for questions. So I will be looking at those. Let me just find it. And let me preface this by addressing one of the common misconceptions and one of the most frequent pro AI comments I get on my posts before I get into this. So, number one comment I get is, you just don't know how to use AI. You are going to be left behind. Don't be left behind. Hop on the AI train before it leaves the station. And what I say to that is, you are not going to believe this. Hold on to your butts. I was an early adopter of artificial intelligence, specifically generative AI. Back in 2022, when Discord had Midjourney, it was not a website. They didn't even have a domain at that point. Midjourney was a Discord channel. You would put in prompts. It would take several minutes sometimes to generate an image, certainly not as fast as they are now, partly due to the amount of data centers. We're going to be getting into that. But just to the people who think that I am have always been wildly anti-AI, I'm here to tell you that I was an early adopter. And the reason that I am so anti-AI right now is because I was not impressed with the results then. And since then, I continue to not be impressed with the results. Frankly, they're underwhelming when I've had to use it for work. I work in advertising. We have to use it for concepting. It takes me more time to pull an image into Photoshop, fix it, make sure the person has the right amount of fingers than it would to have me do it from scratch on my own using stock imagery and comping in Photoshop. So before you get all upset, I just wanted to say that I wanted to preface with that. If you've worked with me before at one of my corporate agency gigs, you will know that I have used artificial intelligence. I have used Firefly from Adobe. I was an early adopter of Midjourney, and now I don't use it if I don't have to. Sometimes we are required to do things for work. I've had to pick up AI files from people and fix them so frequently. I've had to fix them. And I just wanted to open the episode by saying that, because I think sometimes people, it's very polarizing. It's very black and white, especially online. People are either very anti-AI or they're pro-AI. There are, quote, I'm doing big air quotes for those who are just listening, AI artists. But yeah, I don't think that the output has ever been worth the environmental consequences of the tool. Some of you asked if there are good forms of AI, which you'll be getting into. So let me go and look at the questions that you have submitted. So I am pulling up actual questions here from Threads. So I posted a couple days ago that I was recording my anti-AI episode. What questions do you have? And I got a couple questions on this one and then a few on a more recent post. So let's get into it. the first question from Francis17033, she asks, is AI bad? Or sorry, she asks, the first question is from Francis17033, and they ask, is all AI bad? And I think that this is a great question to open with. And I think that we get into some trouble when we're arguing online because there's AI and then there's generative AI. So I'm very anti-generative AI. AI has been used in many fields for a very long time. The one that comes to mind immediately is in medicine and healthcare. AI has been used for a very long time. Lately, it's being used in a helpful way in the healthcare space to view data and predict injury and illness, which is really interesting and cool. And in my opinion, a much better use of artificial intelligence. However, I think that the question can be subjective. I think the idea of good and bad is not objective in this case. I think that a huge thing we need to contend with are the environmental consequences of AI. And right now, a huge amount of energy is being used to not only produce images, but then to cool data centers. So what happens is these data centers heat up because they're generating things so quickly and they're generating files that are huge. You can now upscale images. You have been for some time, but they also need to train these models. So there's just so many different things going on at once. If you're like me and you're autistic or ADHD, if you're neurodivergent, you probably have like an internal monologue. And if you're like me, you have several kind of trains of thought running at one time. I like to think of a data center like that. They're doing a lot of things at once, and I don't mean to dumb this down, but I just feel like it's a good segue into this topic of the environmental impact. But these data centers are doing so many things at once. They're overheating, and we need water to then cool them down. And you're wondering where that water is coming from. Unfortunately, it is taking up some usable drinking water from us to cool down these data centers. So water is used to cool them. That way they don't overheat. And unfortunately, a lot of these data centers are going in primarily Black and brown communities. You may have seen protests in your area for data centers. I know in my area in Pennsylvania, we are protesting a lot of data centers. Josh Shapiro, please put a stop to them. Our governor, Josh Shapiro. But I think so. So back to the question, is AI good or bad? In my opinion, generative AI, bad. Machine learning, automations, AI used in healthcare, I would say for now, barring HIPAA, copyright infringement, okay. I would say it's okay. Let's get into it. Let's look into it. I am looking at my monitor over here. If you're watching me on the tube, or on Spotify, I think Spotify has video, and even Apple Podcasts has video now. So is AI good or bad? And I am doing -AI at the end of the search. That's crazy. When I put -AI, is AI good or bad? It goes, your search didn't match any documents. That's so weird. That is so weird. Oh my gosh. Okay, I need to share this with you guys. Look at that. Is AI good or bad? Okay, I guess I need to take the -AI. Whatever. We're scrolling past the AI overview. Let's see. Now, when you're looking for sources, I like to look at .orgs and .edus. Lately, mostly .edus because a lot of people can buy a .org. Let's see full screen. I'll go full screen on this. You guys can see my Minecraft and my webcam. Okay, let's hide the bookmarks tab. Okay, is AI good or bad? Whatever, the AI overview, not inherently good or bad. I'm gonna look for EDUs, Reddit. Discovery Education, Tableau. Tableau is like Excel on crack. Of course they're gonna be pro AI. Let's go, you know what, Google, let's just do the top result. And I want to see when this was published. Can we see when this was published? Oh, fall 2023. I'm going to back out of that. Is there something more recent? 2024? See, this talks about it being good for society. Since OpenAI launched ChatGPT in late 2022, the topic of AI has sparked heated debates in business, government, education, other fields. People are wondering, is AI good or bad? The answer, it's complicated. Okay, well, that's literally just what I said. Confirmed. So this was back in 2024. I am going to be finding something more recent, but 54% of Americans in 2024 said they were cautious, 22% said they were scared, 19% said they were excited. This data, do they have any sources? I'm going to click on this. I want to see if they cite, okay, no, we're not accepting cookies. Let's see. It redirects us to yougov.com. Americans' Feelings About AI by Jamie Ballard, data journalist. How many people? What was the sample size? Okay, a new YouGov survey. Let's open this up. And guys, also, by the way, if you're watching my screen, this is like, I'm also kind of giving you a crash course on how to decipher information and kind of go down a rabbit hole. So let's see. The sample was 1,073 adult citizens. Let's zoom in on this. Definitely a good episode to watch on YouTube, listeners. So if you want to see the visuals, I'll read them out to you, but this is a good one to watch. So the sample size was 1,073. Okay. It was conducted over the course of 4 days in 2024. That to me is not a large enough sample size. Let's just look it up. Here we go. How many people in US? Okay, US and world population clock. We have 342 million people in the US. Okay, so to me, 1,073 people is not enough. So let's actually take this number. So let's go 342. What was that? 21 divided by, or actually, no, we are doing, I have that reversed. So the sample size is, now if we move the decimal 2 spots, so I'm going to multiply it by 100 to get, okay, so the sample size for this study about Americans' feelings about AI, this survey, is 0.0003. We're going to round down. 0.0003% of the US population. Cool. So grain of salt with these numbers, and the margin of error was plus or minus 3.9%. No surprise here. People thought that the internet was the most revolutionary. I would like to see, by the way, do they have a breakdown of demographics here? Like, do they have age in here? They don't. So I also imagine there's a certain amount of volunteer bias when it comes to this survey, because it's not telling us how they solicited responses and it's not giving us a breakdown of the population. I don't see any general population questions. Let's see. It viewed, AI was mostly, let's see, neither positive nor negative. You can see the drop. So it says, how would you describe the overall effects on society of the following technologies? Internet, 36% very positive, 30% very positive, artificial intelligence, 8% very positive. And then with somewhat positive, we have 36, 37, and then AI drops down to 18%. And a lot of people said a fair amount. So over a third of people said that they know a fair amount about artificial intelligence. 10% said a great deal. 43% said not much, but nothing at all and not sure. Those numbers combined are only 12% of those surveyed. So I think that that's interesting for a few reasons. One, I think it's because there's a lot of AI coverage in the news. And even back in 2024, people didn't view themselves as experts, but they definitely knew what AI was. And then the biggest emotion that people felt, over 50%, so 54% of people felt cautious about AI. 49%, that's almost half of people, felt concerned. Only 29% curious, so less than a third. And then the next biggest emotion after concerned was skeptical. Following that, we have curious, and then following that, we have scared at 22%. Only 5% weren't sure. So that is already telling me how polarizing this topic was becoming even in 2024. Remember, I said I started using Midjourney and Discord in 2022. Was not impressed. About a month, I was like, this is just stupid. I became a prompt wizard, and it still wasn't giving me things that I was impressed with. So I think this is really interesting. People think of robots first when they think of AI. That's interesting to me, that chatbots and facial recognition weren't bigger. And in 2024, image generation was only on 9% of people's minds when they thought about artificial intelligence first. So I think that's interesting. And then, wow, 24% of people thought somewhat negative. Do you think the effects of artificial intelligence, AI on society will be 24% somewhat negative, 18 very negative? Yikes. And very positive was 8%. So let's jump back to here. I still don't think that the sample size is big enough, but what I am getting from this is that people have always been pretty skeptical and concerned about AI. And I think that it's important that these companies like OpenAI Adobe, everyone addresses these concerns when launching new products. I think that there has been a serious gap in messaging when it comes to updates on these platforms and releasing new products and services. It's clear that people are very skeptical. I want to see numbers for 2026. Let me see if I can find them. So you see, I'm kind of going down in a rabbit hole. I want to make sure that we're getting the most recent data. Let's see. I wonder if anyone's extrapolated and kind of wondered how AI will be in the next 10, 20 years. Oh, this one's good. Okay, so not a .org or .edu, but fortune.com did an article. Oh, this was December 23rd, 2025. So this was recent, within the last 6 months. This is a source that I trust a little bit more. Oh, and it's not going to let me read it because I have to pay. Guys, I'm serious. Get your stuff out behind a paywall. This is why people watch Fox News, because it's free, and it's rotting people's brains because it's free. Y'all need to get things out of a paywall. Seriously. I'm not even going to waste time trying to get that. Okay. Let's see. I know we've kind of strayed off topic. I wanted to dive deeper into that survey. Let's see here. So, to answer you, Francis17033, who also happens to be my mom, hi mom, is all AI bad? I don't think so. I think the generative AI is bad, and that will be my final answer on that. The next question is, would love to know what it looks like to build systems and automations for your life and business without AI, especially for chronically ill, neurodivergent, disabled, and low energy creatives. This I really, really love. And this question, let's see, comes from Ivy Cirillo or Cirillo. My name is also Italian. Civello. Apologies if I mispronounced your name. But Ivy, that's a very good question. And actually, I'm going to put a pin in that question because I was just talking to someone today who does automations for small business owners and neurodivergent people. And I think they are going to be coming on a part 2 AI episode, the next one following this one. So I'm going to save that question for that episode, and we're going to talk about that. That's a very good question. And I think that's a nice segue into another topic that I wanted to cover, which was another excuse that I hear a lot from people, comes from disabled people, and they say that it is an accessibility tool. And there are a lot of myths to dispel. There's a lot to unpack there. It could probably be an episode on its own about how disabled people are using AI. I think this is one of those areas where people kind of lose the plot. There's machine learning, there's automations, there's AI. I think a lot of times when people are promoting AI for disabled people, for accessibility, they're either talking about those automations and machine learning, which is not AI, or they're talking about making art with AI, saying that art becomes more accessible when people have access to artificial intelligence. And to that, I will say, art is already the most accessible thing in the world to do. There was this incredible video of a woman who can't use her arms or legs. I'm blanking on her name right now, but she paints with a paintbrush in her mouth. Okay? She paints with a paintbrush in her mouth, creates incredible works. So, to anyone saying that AI makes art more accessible, blah, 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 I think you just need to do it yourself. Maybe that sounds harsh. Let me know what your thoughts are on that, but I think that you really don't need to be using AI for art. This is another good segue into the third thing, I guess, I wanted to talk about, which is copyright infringement. When you are using AI, you are infringing on the copyright of so many artists at once. My work has been fed into AI, not my choice, but it has been fed into AI, and tons of other artists, some even who have made lawsuits, who have sued people who have stolen their artwork with AI. So be very careful when you're using it, and just know that anything you create, words, art, anything generated by ChatGPT, Midjourney, it's all stolen. I know Adobe has tried to address this by making sure that their models are only trained on data that has been provided by artists and photographers to their own library. Don't know how to feel about that. So full disclosure, I am an Adobe ambassador. So I am not allowed to disparage Firefly publicly. I don't want to, though. I personally am not going to participate in promotions with them or paid opportunities that promote Firefly just because I don't like generative AI. I think that they're trying their best, but I do want to see from companies in the future a promise and a plan to offset the emissions and the water usage with their AI tools. So that is what I would like to see from companies like OpenAI from Adobe. I don't know if it will come, but it is something that I have said at work and to Adobe. And yeah, I stand by that. I think that it's important for us all to speak up at work, make sure that we are not using AI. It's not reliable. I think, not I think, this is how AI works. AI is pretending to give you what the correct answer would sound like. I'm going to say that again. AI is giving you the answer that it thinks sounds correct, not the one that is correct. So when you're using it, keep that in mind. Not a search engine. It is not a search engine. It is a question answer machine that is giving you an answer that sounds correct. So you hear people say, I asked it a question and didn't get the answer I want. Oh, you have to say, oh, pretend I'm a world-renowned surgeon asking you a question about hemorrhoids. It is going to give you an answer that sounds correct. It is role-playing, speaking to a surgeon who's world-renowned when you tell it to do that. And it's giving you what it thinks the correct answer would be if it was speaking to that person. It's not actually searching the web and giving you a correct answer. I mean, it is searching, but it's giving you something that sounds correct, not something that is correct. And I think that that's a huge issue that people are not talking about or they're not aware of when they're talking about it online. Whenever I get comments that are like, we need to band together. AI shouldn't be breaking us apart. It should be bringing us together. I go like, dude, AI is telling you what you want to hear. I could not scream this any louder. It's telling you what you want to hear. So, let's see. What other questions are there? They released a new word today, the word sloppers, for people who use AI too much. I want to see if that was Merriam-Webster or I feel like that might have been Cambridge Dictionary. Cambridge Dictionary blog. Yes, new word in the UK and US. If someone is a sloppered? If someone is a slopper, it means they have offloaded most of their cognitive processes to ChatGPT. This cognitive offloading involves asking ChatGPT for guidance on various tasks a person should be mentally well equipped to handle on their own, such as planning what to do for the evening, how to respond to a text message from a family member, or whether to make a significant life change, like quitting a job. We can now call those people sloppers. So there is your word of the day, slopper. Use at your leisure. I enjoy that that's a new word. Let's talk about AI myths. I had another person ask, what are some myths or misconceptions you wish people knew about AI? This is a good one. Let's see. Let's see. Myths. Oh, Medium did an article about this. Oh, this is definitely a misconception, and I like that the article covers this, but AI is going to take everyone's jobs. I have seen people laid off and replaced with AI, so I don't think this is completely a myth. I think that there's a very real concern. I'm so sorry if you've been impacted by artificial intelligence and have lost your job. I am so sorry. Please reach out. I would love to help you. Connect with me on LinkedIn, social media, what have you. I think that's a very real concern. I think that the myth or misconception is that everyone is going to lose their jobs. On the contrary, I am hopeful and I have hope that AI will actually push people to want to I think it'll push people to a renaissance. I hope that it is going to push people to want to create with their hands, create tangible things. I myself, I myself have started a snail mail club and we've seen a resurgence in snail mail clubs. And I think that that is a great example of people moving to actual tangible, physical, creative endeavors over the digital, over this AI infested world. And so that's really cool to see. So I don't think it's taking everyone's jobs. Make an account to view the whole story, girl. Okay, come on now. I'm making a free account to view the article. Please let me view it. Would I like to read? No. Oh, this is so dumb. Okay, whatever. Okay, I'm not gonna be a member. I just want to read the article. Okay, we're in. We're in. You're welcome. I'm about to get spammed by medium.com. You're all welcome. I made an account. Number 2, AI is usually accurate. This myth is the opposite of the last one, and it's just as dangerous. A lot of people have swung from, quote, AI is magic to treating AI outputs as reliable facts. This person says they paste a question into ChatGPT, get a clean, confident, well-structured response, and assume it's correct. It's not always, not even close to always. This is what I was just talking about. So this person cites a recent study. They say a recent study found that ChatGPT gives wrong answers approximately 1 in 4 times. 1 in 4. This person says, imagine hiring an employee who is confidently wrong 25% of the time. You would fire them in a week. Yeah. They continue. So this problem is called hallucination. It's not a bug that's getting patched. It's a fundamental feature of how language models work. These models don't look up facts. They predict the most likely next word based on patterns they learned during training. This is what I'm saying. They give you an answer that sounds correct, not one that is correct. When they don't know something, they don't say, quote, I don't know. They generate what sounds like a correct answer because that's literally what they were designed to do. This is, I think, like, there's the environmental impact, of course, but I think this is like the second biggest issue with AI is that people are relying on it as a search engine. They think they can just ask this AI agent a question, it gets an answer. When they're wrong, confidently wrong, 25% of the time, I'm sorry, but that's just not a margin of error I'm comfortable with. Let's see. They generate what sounds like a correct answer. Yes. So the danger isn't that AI makes mistakes. They continue to say that every tool makes mistakes. The danger is that AI makes mistakes with the same confidence it uses when it's right. There's no blinking light, no hesitation in the voice, no, quote, I'm not sure about this. Just a clean, well-formatted, complete wrong answer delivered like it came from an encyclopedia. The practical lesson is simple. Use AI as a starting point, not as a source of truth. Verify anything that matters and never ever use an unverified AI output for medical advice, legal information, financial decisions, or anything where being wrong has real consequences. The people who understand hallucination don't stop using AI, they just stop blindly trusting it. That's a huge difference. I think that like I said, is like the second biggest issue for me when it comes to AI is that people are relying on it to write for them, to create content for them, to streamline processes, to write entire essays for them. I've seen it at companies I've worked at where even people who have PhDs who wrote theses on their own years ago when they got their PhD and did their defense, now resorting to AI to write for them. And I don't know about you, but that is incredibly concerning to me. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. The third myth listed in this article, and this article, let me just credit them. This article was written by Krupesh Raut, April 29th, 2026. So this is within the last month this came out. So this third one is AGI is 2 to 3 years away. AGI is artificial general intelligence. He goes on to say every year someone credible predicts that artificial general intelligence, AI can do anything AI that can do anything a human can do is just around the corner. And every year they're wrong. The AI field has a long, embarrassing history of overpromising. In 1965, Herbert Simon said machines would do, quote, any work a man can do, end quote, within 20 years. That was 61 years ago. In 2016, Jeff Hinton predicted radiologists wouldn't be needed by 2021. There are more radiologists working today than in 2016. The current forecasts have shifted dramatically, but they're still uncertain. In 2020, the median expert forecast put AGI roughly 50 years away. By February 2026, the Metaculus forecasting community, it's a 25% chance on AGI by 2029 and a 50% chance by 2033. So that's a coin flip for 7 years? Coin flip for 7 years. So they continue. Notice the pattern. The closer we get to the predicted date, the further the goalposts move, or the definition of AGI changes, or the prediction gets quietly forgotten and replaced with a new one. Here's what's actually true. AI in 2026 is extraordinarily capable at specific tasks. GPT 5.5 nearly doubles Claude's math scores on the hardest benchmarks. Claude Opus 4.7 can solve real GitHub issues across multiple files, and Gemini processes over 1 million tokens of context. These are genuine breakthroughs. But, quote, very good at specific tasks is not AGI, not even close. Remember, we're imagining an AI that can do anything a human can do when we think of AGI, artificial general intelligence. There's no AI system that can learn a completely new skill it wasn't trained on with the flexibility of a human. There's no AI system that has common sense reasoning about the physical world the way a toddler does, and there's no AI system that can set its own goals based on values it has developed through lived experience. Let's see. Oh, okay, this one's interesting. So the fifth take on this one is the AI is a bubble that's about to burst. And this person says, quote, I see this take constantly, especially from people who remember the dot-com crash. This is just like 1999. The valuations are insane. It's all going to collapse. The comparison is understandable, but wrong in one critical way. The dot-com companies that crashed in 2000 were burning cash with no path to profitability. Pets.com went public with a $619,000 revenue and $61.8 million in expenses. Webvan raised $800 million and never turned a profit. The companies driving the dot-com bubble were destroying capital at an extraordinary rate. The companies driving the AI market in 2026 are among the most profitable in corporate history. NVIDIA reported net income exceeding $120 billion for fiscal 2026. Its forward price to earnings ratio is approximately 41, elevated but nowhere near Cisco's ratio of 200 at the dot-com peak. OpenAI has surpassed $25 billion in annualized revenue. Google Cloud generates $70 billion annually, growing at 48%. Does that mean there's no bubble at all? No. There are absolutely bubble-like features in the current AI market. VC funding concentration at 61% of global venture capital going to AI, private valuations reaching $730 billion, over $500 billion per year projected to be spent on AI infrastructure, while US consumer AI revenue is only at around $12 billion. This is the bubble I think of when I think of AI, and I think that it's important that we talk about this bubble. Before I forget, there was an Atlantic article. Actually, there are two. There was one that came out October 2025. This is the one I was thinking of, but apparently they've done a follow-up that just came out 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to read both of those next, but I wanted to get those up before I forgot. So let's see. The AI correction when it comes will probably look similar to the dot-com bubble. The technology is real. Some valuations are not. The winners will win bigger than anyone expects, and the losers will disappear entirely. Calling the whole thing a bubble misses the point. The question isn't whether AI is real. It obviously is. The question is which AI companies are real and which are hype, and that's a much harder question to answer. I appreciate that answer. Let's see. The next one is AI agents can run your business today. And this person says this is a myth that's costing founders the most money right now. I'm going to skip over this one. Obviously, they can't run your whole business. We've seen that. Yeah, this is a good article. If I remember, I will most definitely. Actually, I'll try to link it somewhere on screen. I will link it down below. If not, I want to jump to the Atlantic right now. So this episode is, of course, inspired by the stuff I post on the internet every single day where I talk about being anti-generative AI. But I read an article about an AI bubble popping in the Atlantic, and this was in October of 2025. So I am going to take a look at that, and then they have done a follow-up. Let's see, is it by the same person? No, it is not, but they did a follow-up 2 weeks ago. So this one from 2025 was in the technology section, and the most recent one's in the economy section. Interesting. You'll see why. So US is becoming an NVIDIA state. The subhead reads, the headline, here's how the AI crash happens. So this was from October 30th, 2025. The AI boom is visible from orbit. Satellite photos of New Carlisle, Indiana show greenish splotches of farmland transformed into unmistakable industrial parks in less than a year's time. There are 7 rectangular data centers there, with 23 more on the way. Inside each of these buildings, endless rows of fridge-sized containers of computer chips wheeze and grunt as they perform mathematical operations at an unfathomable scale. The buildings belong to Amazon and are being used by Anthropic, a leading AI firm, to train and run its models. According to one estimate, this data center campus, far from complete, already demands more than 500 megawatts of electricity to power these calculations. That's as much as hundreds of thousands of American homes. So just think about that for a second. Think about your house. Even if it's a one bedroom, imagine hundreds of thousands of that bedroom. Even the smallest of houses, multiply it by hundreds of thousands, and that's how much energy is required for these data centers. When all data centers in New Carlisle are built, they will demand more power than 2 Atlantas. That's ginormous. That's fucking huge. Let's see. So I'm scrolling down. So it goes on to say, but even worse, what if AI's promise for American business proves to be a mirage? What happens then? So this compared it to, this like the 2008 housing crisis and economic collapse. Is this the article that talks about it? Let's see. I'm going to go to an article that was written in May by the same people who wrote this article that I was just reading from The Atlantic. Again, I will link these below if I remember. So this one's in the technology section, and it says, welcome to a multi-dimensional economic disaster. The AI boom wasn't built for the poly crisis. It's by Mateo Wong and Charlie Wartzel. So this was March 2026, so only a couple months ago. The global economy has become dependent on the AI industry. Trillions of dollars are being invested into the technology and the infrastructure it relies on. In the final months of 2025, functionally all economic growth in the United States came from AI investments. This would be risky even in ideal conditions, and we are very far from the ideal conditions. Much of the AI supply chain, chips, data centers, combustion turbines, and so on, relies on key materials that are produced in or transported through just a few places on Earth with little overlap. In particular, the industry is highly dependent on the Middle East, which has been destabilized by the war in Iran. A global energy shock seems all but certain to come soon, the kind where even the best case scenario is a disaster. The war could grind the AI build out to a halt, and this would be devastating for the tech firms that have issued historic amounts of debt to race their highly leveraged competitors. This debt is what I remembered from the first article and what I wanted to talk about, so I found the right one. It would be devastating for private lenders and banks that have been buying up that debt in the hope of even bigger returns. So hearing things that are sounding off alarm bells, in particular, historic amounts of debt, and then private lenders and banks. Those are the phrases that should remind us all of 2008 if you were alive. So the fear is that too much money is coming in too fast and that generative AI companies still have not offered anything close to a viable business model. This is true. If growth were to stall, or the technology were to be seen as failing to deliver on its promises, the bubble might burst, triggering a chain reaction across the financial system. Like the 2008 collapse, everyone, big banks, private equity firms, people who have no idea what's mixed into their 401k would be hit by the AI crash. Until recently, that kind of crash felt hypothetical. Today, it feels plausible and to some almost inevitable. Quote, what's unusual about this, unlike commercial real estate during the global financial crisis, Paul Kedrowski, an investor and financial consultant, told us, quote, is all of these interlocking points of fragility. This is what worries me about AI. So perhaps the clearest example are advanced memory and training chips, which are among the most important and the most expensive components of training any AI model. Currently, most of them are produced by 2 companies in South Korea and 1 in Taiwan. These countries in turn get a large majority of their crude oil and much of their liquefied natural gas, which help fuel semiconductor manufacturing. That comes from the Persian Gulf. Stay with me. So the chip companies also require helium, sulfur, and bromine, 3 key inputs to silicon wafers, largely sourced from the region. And in addition, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and other regional petrostates have become key investors in the American AI firms that purchase most of those chips. Because of the war in Iran, the Strait of Hormuz is functionally closed to most shipping vessels, stranding 1/5 of the world's exports of natural gas. This is very important. Also, straining exportable fertilizer, helium, and sulfur. Meanwhile, Iran and Israel have begun bombing most of the fossil fuel infrastructure in the region, which would take many years to replace. This leads to a helium crunch. So you heard that helium is also being held up. A helium crunch could trigger a shortage of AI chips or cause chip prices to rise. So supply is going to go down, demand is up, prices will skyrocket. Supply goes up again, levels out with demand, prices go down. So I'm assuming higher prices from this. Again, what happened in 2008? Let's see. Yeah, so hyperscalers like Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Amazon are hyperscaling. So they're building faster than the demand is there. They are going to be the ones to cause this collapse. Yes. So here it is. For a while, it seemed like every time Google or Microsoft announced more data center investments, their stock prices rose. Now the opposite occurs. The hyperscalers, so that's Google, Microsoft, Amazon, the hyperscalers are spending far more, but investors have started to notice that they are not generating anything near the revenue they need to. This is a big point. So I talked about my biggest thing, the environment. My second biggest thing, it's sounding correct, not actually correct. This is like the third huge thing to me, is that these hyperscalers, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, etc., OpenAI, they are outpacing the interest in their product. So they're building more data centers than we're actually interested in using AI. And so I want you to think about the AI that you've seen in your feed. I want you to think about the celebrities you've seen partnering with AI or talking about AI in interviews. And I want you to realize that these big companies, these CEOs, are hoping, not just hoping, paying for advertising to make you want to use AI, or else they will be losing astronomical amounts of money. I'll say that again. These hyperscaling companies are building data centers so quickly, so rapidly, with the help of private equity. They're loaning money and leases to each other. It's becoming this closed circle situation, much like the 2008 housing crisis and subsequent economic collapse, that they need you to use AI more than you're using it right now. So like recently we saw Reese Witherspoon sell out and start talking about using AI, despite doing work that like really does not align her with that for most of her life. Anyway, well, Demi Moore too is another example. Peter Jackson, even, disappointing. Lord of the Rings fans. But these people are starting to take deals for money to get you, convince you to use more AI because of this bubble, and because these CEOs have bet the farm, as it were, on AI, and we're not using it enough to make them money. And that is scaring them. It's scaring them. And it should scare you too, because when all of these big boys, these CEOs, get together, they control the economy because they're hyperscaling. Amazon controls the economy. Microsoft controls the economy. Apple too, although they're not in the AI race as much as these other hyperscalers. And Google, Alphabet, they are the big dogs, and they want you to use AI more than you're using it. And like I said, that should scare you. It should scare you that people are trying to convince you to use this thing. It feels like the opposite of dare. When you're in school, like if you're a millennial, you know what dare is. Don't use drugs, don't smoke. Here's what lungs look like that have smoked for 30 years. It's like the opposite. We have these CEOs, these rich white dudes together going, hey guys, use some AI, try some AI. AI can become your friend. AI can be your girlfriend. AI can answer all your questions. See my earlier issues that I brought up about artificial intelligence. And I hope that you're starting to realize that this mirage is being funded by these hyperscaling companies, and they want you to use AI, because if you don't use AI, say it with me now, there is going to be an economic collapse. I don't mean to scare you that much, but what I am telling you is that AI is either going to be bad or it is going to be worse. It's bad enough now that it's using so much energy, that it's participating in environmental racism and water bankruptcy. It's already bad enough that it's not a search engine. It's giving you only 75% correct answers, but it's delivering it with the same confidence as that 25% where it's wrong. And these hyperscaling companies are all loaning money and leases to each other and private equity at a speed in which they are severely outpacing our interest in artificial intelligence. So I think, and I will end the episode on this because this was a pretty dense episode. I read a lot of articles. I will link them down below. If you search AI 2008 and the Atlantic in Google without AI, you should be able to find these articles. And then the other one was from medium.com. And it is called 7 Things Everyone Gets Wrong About AI in 2026. The data says otherwise. Take a look at these, read them. There's a new one I didn't get to, but I want to keep this episode accessible, not too long. I'm keeping it under an hour. I'm going to end on that note. My plea to you is to limit the amount of AI that you are using in your life. It might seem scary to hear that if we don't meet the demands of these hyperscaling companies, there will be an economic collapse. Even scarier, though, is meeting their demands and their insatiable quest for power and money, and realize that they will be outpacing us anyway, because if we meet their demands, they will continue to grow. I think that the only way for us to send a message to these CEOs and these large companies is for us to stop using their product, to make sure that they don't meet their goals, and unfortunately, to maybe have an economic collapse. So I would encourage you to stop using AI. And the second thing that I would urge you to do is check your 401k. A lot of people just set it on autopilot. I would encourage you to look at its investments and choose them for yourself. Do a quick Google, a quick YouTube video on picking a nice stable mix of 401k investments. I would not invest in any of those hyperscaling companies. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening to this one. This AI episode was a long time coming. I hope you enjoyed it. There is going to be a part 2, so stay tuned. There's going to be a part 2. I may have a special guest coming on. We're going to talk more about AI, and we're going to dive into a little bit more of the intersectionality, the environmental racism, the automations for disabled people that can replace AI in your life. And I'm very excited about that. So thank you so much for tuning in. I am Carly Civello, and I am a talking person, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.